I got this scripture. I gotta go to this scripture, and I'm tangling with it. It's wrestling with me. I want to have something really encouraging. I don't know that I feel it's encouraging. I don't know what I think about this scripture. This is an interesting scripture, though. I'm going to quickly go through it. It's worthy of two messages. So we're going to just deal with a short, small one today. And I'll come back and I'll chew on it some more at some other time. It's a continuation of my series from 1 Samuel. It's going to be 1 Samuel chapter 25. 1 Samuel chapter 25. There's a fascinating story, very unusual little story in the life of David. Although not that unusual. I think some of you may have heard it, read, or encountered it yourself in your own reading. But it's a beautiful little story. The story of Abigail and Nabal and David. And there's a lot in here that speaks to the experience of David that I'm not going to get to today. I'm not going to really take a good look at Abigail and the wonderful ministry that she provides for David. There's a really great area of discussion for that. I once had the opportunity. Brother Douglas was trying to get us to work the Young Men of Valor class. We were going to have a quarterly class. I don't know, Brother Douglas, we fell off. I don't know. So we were going to do that with the Young Men of Valor at one time, and I created a lesson that talked about anger management, and it came from this lesson. It was really so it's a great scripture because it has great topics like that it feeds into. But I'm looking at it in a slightly different way, and I got to go there. I think I got to go there, so I'm going to go there. We're going to look at a little bit of the beginning of this story, and we're going to talk a little bit about covenant breakers. I don't know. Y'all pray for me now. All right. I'm going to try to get to it. Covenant breakers. Yes. It's a fascinating reality about life. Human beings, the way we are, we're not always faithful in our relationships. We're not always faithful even in our business. We sometimes have business relationships and we're not trustworthy like we should be. Human beings break contracts. Don't stay faithful. And when we're looking at the story of David and Nabal, that's where we start in the 25th chapter. We're looking at a story that can be seen from the perspective. We can just take a little bird's eye perspective, look down on the scene, and see it as an example of covenant broken. I don't think it's often discussed as a picture of covenant, but I think it is. I think it really is. I think there's several clues that we see in the scripture. Now, I've had a chance to talk a little bit about covenant. Don't worry. We didn't make a test out of it. If you don't remember anything we ever said about covenant, that's all right. I'm going to do a quick review. It's going to be less than 3 minutes. I promise. Less than 3 minutes. But what is a covenant? It's a contract between parties that are in relationship. That's a covenant. When my son Julius joined a school, he joined a Christian school, and they wanted to make certain that all the students in that school, in Faith Heritage, all the students had to make a promise to their school that they would always maintain good behavior And they wrote up an agreement. So when you got accepted to that school, and after you paid your tuition, you had to sign, or actually the student had to sign, and then the parents also had to sign this agreement that said student A will be good, obedient to their teachers, listen to the caregivers, not act up, not talk back, do their homework. They had to sign that thing. And that was called a covenant. They called it a covenant. Covenant between the students and the staff at the school. The students and the school. Covenant is what we often refer to as marriage. Marriage is contractual. It can be done even with a judge. Right. The state recognizes marriage by legal authority. But the church calls marriage a covenant. It's between two people in relationship. And as much as you wives might want to pull out the contract on the husband every once in a while, because you're in relationship, you have a little more deference and a little more patience. And although some husbands want to pull out the contract sometimes, say, you're not keeping the contract. Because you're in relationship, I know this is tough. You're not supposed to just be like business people. Covenant is contract, but it's with relationship. There are covenants in the Bible between human beings and covenants between men and God. Right? And I think we have a picture here in chapter 25 of a covenant between two human beings, two men. And that is also reflective or an image that we can see some things about our relationship, our covenant with God, with men's covenant with God. So I think the covenant here between David and Nabal tells us a little bit about what God expects in his covenant with his people. Let me go through the process of looking at just a couple of the verses and see if I can convince you that this is a covenant. Because I will forewarn you, if you ever do any commentary reading, I may be out there on my own, because a lot of people describe this relationship in other terms. But I think this holds up. Take a look. Let's look at the 25th chapter. Let's go to the second verse. And there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel, and the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and of beautiful countenance, but the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear his sheep. And David sent out 10 young men. And David said unto the young men, Get you up to Carmel, and go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus shall ye say to him that liveth in prosperity, Peace be both to thee, and peace be to thine house, and peace be unto all that thou hast. And now I have heard that thou hast shearers. That means he's actually cutting the fur off the sheep. It's time to gather the wool. Now thy shepherds which were with us, there's the hint, right? Thy shepherds that were with us, we heard them not, neither was there aught missing unto them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask thy young men, and they will show thee. Wherefore let the young men, my young men that I'm sending, find favor in thine eyes, for we come in a good day. Well, we come in a day when you have some prosperity there. Some good things are happening. I pray thee, whatsoever cometh to thy hand unto thy servants and to thy son David. Now the thing here, I want to emphasize, David sends 10 of his young warriors to Nabal at the time of his, in a sense, is what you would call the harvest of sheep. You harvest from the sheep their wool, and there becomes a time when it's time to shear them, take the wool. David makes it quite clear in the instructions that he gives the young men, they are to tell Nabal that, or to remind Nabal that they were keeping his men while they were shepherds out there in Carmel. David's men watched over his men. And as he said, while we did so, nothing went missing. We didn't harass the men. We didn't take anything from them at that time, right? And we made sure nobody else hurt them. Right? They were not, nothing was missing, and no one hurt them. And we hurt them not. All the while that they were under our care. That, I think, is a picture of the relationship that they had. I think it was a business relationship. I think David had offered up protection with his men, protection of Nabal's shepherds. And in exchange, he expected at some point, when the shearing came, to get a little bit of the proceeds, a little bit of the profit. Their payment was going to be in the shearing of the sheep. At the shearing time, that's when Nabal's going to be making all his money because he's going to sell the wool. At that time, David was expecting, he was expecting what his young men asked for. They were asking for some food and some provisions. There's one more verse that kind of fills this out. If you jump down to the 21st verse, this is after David gets mad and after he's ruining the fact that he actually helped Nabal in the wilderness. David, in the 21st verse, says, now David had said, surely in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him. And he hath requited me evil for good. And he's repaid me with evil. So, again, David quite clearly, from the way he's speaking, he saw and he recognized that they had a business relationship. I'm providing protection for this man whose shepherds are out there exposed in Carmel. My men are a safeguard around them. And then the deal was, when he got his proceeds, he was supposed to give me a little bit of it. That, I believe, is covenant. I think that's the picture of it. Now, it's not discussed that way specifically. We never hear about them cutting a covenant together. But I think that's clearly what that was. That's what it was. Covenant. One party has one request, the other party has another request, and because they're in relationship, because they're brothers, in this case they're supposed to be Israelites, they're brothers in the Lord, they trust that each party is going to do what they're supposed to do.